can. Perfect. Alrighty. Hello, jury. As you all know, finale night is tomorrow. Thank you guys for being here. We are very excited for this. Welcome to the Jury Roundtable, where we will be discussing each of the 3 remaining hunters left in the game, their games, how you feel about them, their chances of winning, etc., etc. We'll be going one by one, and you guys will be just free to discuss how you feel about them. So we're going to get straight into it. The first, we'll go by alphabetical order of the hunters still left. So to kick us off, we have our lovely Australian Adele. And yeah, would anyone like to start off talking about Adele? Otherwise,
I don't mind starting.
Calum, off you go.
If I'm honest, whilst I may have slated her quite a lot in both the jury chat and been a little bit shady when I was eliminated, I actually have changed my mind a little bit now. She's kind of proved, this is a little bit shady, but yeah, she's kind of proved that being a sideline Sally can actually get you somewhere in the game. And whilst I'm a little bit low to vote for her for the fact that I don't know what, in a sense, she's contributed, if that makes sense, to becoming a finalist, I feel like she does, for various different reasons, I feel like she does deserve it the most, and it would be really good to see her win, because I know one of the reasons, which I know has been people have been quite vocal about, particularly in the jury, is that I know that her partner isn't massively keen on her playing orgs, and for me, on a personal level, I'd love to see her win this to prove her partner wrong and to prove that actually this is what she's good at, and you know, this is sort of her thing. And for that reason, I you know, whilst I struggle to find sort of a contribution in terms of the game as to why she would win on a personal level, I personally think that she deserves it the most. That's kind of that's my stance on Adele.
Can I go?
You're afraid to talk because you were.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So I think Adele's not getting enough credit that she does deserve in this game. Adele, the point of Big Brother is, yeah, it's about challenges and not being targeted, but Adele did just that. She made sure she was well liked by everybody in the cast. She made sure she was the last one ever to be nominated because of those connections. She crafted the art of the social game very well, I think. And I don't think we should discredit her for that. She wasn't a big personality, maybe like Bruno or Caleb, or I don't think she was a sideline Sally like Calum is saying. I think she played a very good under the radar game. And the time we did talk to her, she was always up front saying what she was going to do. And at least based on when I was still in the game, I knew where her head was at. She told me that her 2 closest allies were myself and Sam. So she was out there talking game, but you just had to be able to you had to give her something in order for her to give you something, which I think is kind of smart. She's just not out there willy-nilly giving her strategy out there. So I do think Adele did play a very under the radar good game. She's like a secret assassin that we knew she was there, but we just did not take the shots when we had the chance. And I have to commend her for that from my perspective.
Can I play devil's advocate really quick? Okay, so I obviously love Adele. I think she's a great person, great personality and everything. But my only problem with Adele is, and I 100% believe that everything you just said is true, but what did she do to further her own game other than, in my opinion, in a lot of ways, she relied on a lot of other people's mistakes to get farther, which, I mean, that's amazing. You did that. But what moves did she make herself? Because she's told me multiple times that she voted with things just to be in a majority, which is like smart, but how does that impact your game though? Like when you're just allowing people to get voted out one by one by one. And like, that's in my opinion, like it shows in a lot of ways she kind of like, not I want to say coasted, but it's in my perspective, it kind of views that. So I don't know if you guys have any opinions on that, and maybe prove me wrong why I think that. So I love Adele and like one of my favorite people in this cast, but I just want to know because in a lot of my like, it seems to me that she kind of just coasted her way through this game.
I think
I
the
just want to
thing
jump in and say I completely agree with that.
Adele for me is I think there's an art in just chilling. And there's a whole thing where like she just like had to relax. None of us really had a lot of chill, especially when we were on the block or if we had power. A lot of meltdowns from collectively a lot of us. A lot of us did a lot of stupid shit. But she was able to keep calm, and I think she navigated that way when she did have power. I think she just did what was in her best interest. A lot of the power players weren't looking at her, wanted to take her far, and have been telling her that I told her I wanted to take her far. Like a lot of the people that were seen as big targets were all good with her. So why would she shake that up? While the people who are seen as smaller targets were the ones saying like we should actively target Adele. So I feel like that's why I think when she did have the chance to make moves, she made moves that did benefit her game. It may not seem like drastic, but like her game was just to chill out, you know? And she does have the opportunity if she does win the final comp to make like a big move that could like change all of our opinions. I don't want to count her out. She's technically the reason why I went out. So like I gotta give her credit for that.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I was sorry.
No, you're good. No, you're good. You're good.
At least, okay, I don't know if everyone can say it, but Rand did bring it up. Adele was in plans for my end game. I think Rae said Adele was in the plans for her end game. That is doing something in the game. If you can get yourself weaseled into people's end games, that's playing the game. You don't have to be over the top bearing. You just being you and getting in people's end games is playing the game, in my opinion.
Okay. I think you bring up a good point.
Adele was in my end game.
She was in mine as well. So I mean, wow. I mean, think about it. She's like was in all of her end games.
Everybody's end game. That is something you cannot deny.
And I think for me, like I think other people, Adele was in their end game because they thought they could beat Adele. I didn't think that I could for sure beat Adele. I just wanted to go to the end with her because based off of the friendship that we made and the conversations that we had, she was very real with me. I didn't really get any wishy-washiness from people, and when she was ready to give me information, she gave me information, and I knew for the most part it was true. And I think Rae Ann touched on this earlier in the jury chat. Like I do feel her game was very fluid. No one pressed her for anything, and she positioned herself and conducted herself in that way where people weren't trying to press her, and they were fine with Adele not showing her cards or revealing her thoughts. And I think Adele was like, you know, I'm gonna chill, and everybody else who's being like who's in the spotlight right now can take the heat and take the attention away, and that's a strategy in it and of itself. So yeah, I think she deserves a little bit more credit in that sense.
Really quickly, I just wanted to read some thoughts from Brandan since Brandan is not able to join us. He did write something about Adele. So something he wanted to add, I'm just going to read it. He said, "Oh, I love Adele. If this makes any sense, she didn't know the format of BBUS at all, and I think she learned a lot and grew as a person. Even though sometimes it may not have looked like she pulled a big-ass move, sometimes the big moves are the smaller ones. And frankly, even if it was unintentional, she was in with so many people, and no one had a second thought on taking her out, even though everyone knew she was really liked." I feel like that kind of fit with what you all were talking about, so I thought I would add that in for Brandan.
Do you guys have any like problems with her game? Like, I mean, like I think we addressed a lot, but I'm just curious if you guys have any problems with her game.
Well, the same goes. Mine's like oh, sorry, Rae Ann. You can. Sorry.
Oh no, you can go first.
My positives for her are kind of my negatives for her as well, if that kind of makes sense. Her being liked and all that is great, but I wanted to see her more in like trying to save herself more. I think she did rely on a lot more people than herself to get her far, which I think is kind of a downside. But it could be a positive too. Like I look at it both ways. I don't know. I just think she could have tried more, tried a little harder. Is at least what I'm gonna say.
Can I have one question for everybody? Like, raise your hand if you would have had you like Adele was in your Final Four plan. Let's just say Final Four, because I mean she was in my Final Four plan. So everyone but Calum here wanted Adele at the Final Four, and I think that speaks volumes of how good her social game was. So I mean, because the same thing goes with like Bruno. Like I talk to Adele personally every day, one on one, about her dogs and her cats and her life and her fiance, and like I genuinely grown to like her a lot as a person, and I wanted to see her go really far. So I think that really shows, even though she may have not been the biggest strategist, the small move she made was very like strong. So I think that is a good point. But you guys can add anything to that, but
I just think because you were wanting like some negatives, I personally feel like while I think she was discredited a lot, I think she has a lot to prove to us in the final like speeches, because she's gonna be up against someone like Sam or Drew P, where they had clear like they did more things clearly. They won more things and they showed their like strategy stuff more like openly. And I think an under the radar game, which I think can be winning, and I think that she could prove it, but she really has to sell it. I think.
I do want
I
to
think
throw out a question in the mix. If say for you pretty much what you all like came to like together is that Adele had a really good strong social game. She didn't from what I'm hearing is that she didn't really she not so much did anything strategic, but is a strong social game worthy of the win in your guys' eyes.
I think it's gonna be like how she sells it, because I think a strong social game is a strong strategic game. Because if you're not like socially in with everyone, you're not gonna have you're not gonna be in the know for the moves, but you're also not gonna have the leeway to like make the moves you want. So I think it just depends on how she sells it for me.
I was going to say, oh, I don't know if can you guys hear me? Sorry, I don't know if it's cutting out.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, you're good. Go ahead.
Yeah, but you're good. You're good.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah,
We
cut out.
Yeah, we can hear
Okay.
you.
Okay, awesome. In the end, like we have to like address this. Big Brother was created as a social experiment. It was who could socially navigate through the cast to get to the end. Like you can win competitions and all that, but if you were targeted constantly, like me or Bruno or like Rae Ann, like our social games were not as strong as Adele's, and like to me, like, I mean that it is the end. She wasn't targeted. She was the last person nominated, and that shows for a reason. Like how we targeted like the more inactive people in the beginning. Guess who was never targeted? Adele. Like, yeah, she may have not shown up to every ceremony, but her social game was so good, it didn't matter.
I'm
So,
going to throw something in the mix. I'm going to throw something in the mix as well, because sometimes there is a very clear divide between a strong social game where everyone loves you and not targeted, and that's why you want to go to the end, and you want to make them go to the end because they haven't done too much. Where does Adele fit in that scale?
I think Adele's in the middle. You know what the thing is? I will say, I think Adele also wasn't targeted just because she didn't really perform well in challenges too. I feel like everybody wanted to get someone else that was a threat to beating them in a pack leader competition or ROI. So, I feel like that's also part. I don't think her social game was that amazing. I think it was good, but I think it was also because she wasn't that great in challenges that people were like, oh, we could save Adele for the next round because we know Adele's probably not going to win. But I also think Adele used that to her advantage where she's like, you know what? I'm not that great in challenges, so I might have to use people or attach myself to people like myself or others who can perform well in challenges and then guarantee her safety or take her off the block, So I think she's in the middle of that.
I would agree, but I think the players in the game will see her as someone who is a GOAT. So that's why I feel like she's going to be in the final two no matter what, which is something to think about. But I would agree she's in the middle, but I think she has to really like I said, she's gonna have to really perform at this final to really push it to the winning performance because I think she can. It's just for me, it's gonna be difficult because I see her more on I don't think it's great to be in the middle.
Okay.
Really quickly, I wanted to call out Jackson. You've been pretty quiet over there. I want to know your thoughts on Adele so far.
I mean, Flopson, right?
Yeah, no. I definitely agree with what most people have been saying. Me personally, like everyone said, I've gotten to know her super well, obviously. Just the strategy talk wasn't there necessarily between us two, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But, I respect the game. So what I'm looking for, like Rae Ann said, she's got to sell it well. I feel like, she's obviously not going to be claiming big moves and whatnot. But I feel like I'll give her a chance if she can explain, some of the smaller moves that maybe helped her push her game along. It doesn't necessarily, you don't need big moves to win games. So I feel like, for me, it's going to depend on kind of who she's up against as well. But yeah, I kind of agree with what people have been saying. Just it's how she's going to sell it in her speech.
Sure. All right. I think it's safe to say that we can pretty much start wrapping up with Adele, but I wanted to pose one last question. Obviously, she is competing in part 3 of Pack Leader tomorrow against Sam. Do you think if she were to win that you want to, what do you all want to see from her if she were to win? Do you want her to take out Sam or do you want her to take out Drew? Is there a right or wrong decision for her? What do you think?
Sam's the right move.
Sam has, if she wants any
Definitely
chance for a shot at winning, she needs to take Sam out. That will be a move for her on her resume.
She would have to take Sam out, yeah.
I mean, for me, it's not so much whether she wants a shot of winning for me personally as to who she takes out. I think if she wants a shot of winning in general, full stop, then yes, to take out Sam. But unless something absolutely drastic happens, regardless of who she takes out, in terms of my personal opinion, it's not a case of whether she would have a shot of winning, if that makes sense. But as I said, in terms of a game opinion, yeah, Sam's the right person to take out.
I think she has a bigger shot to win if she takes Sam out, personally. I think if she brings Sam, I don't think she'll have a shot to win personally. It's her moment to prove her strategic game by taking out what I think is the biggest competition to her. And if she doesn't take the chance to do it, I think she's going to have a even harder uphill battle.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, we'll wrap things up on Adele then. Let's move on. The next hunter in line, Drew Petrowski. We will start. Jackson, did you want to start here?
Yeah, I can start.
Okay.
Kind of like Adele, I personally don't know much about Drew P's game. Like he said in the double eviction when he put me up, we really only talked when he had power or there was a vote or something. So I just personally want to hear from you guys much more about his game and what he did. Because I've been hearing the stuff in the jury chat about him being a snake and whatnot. But I just want that clarified and kind of, just explain his game more to me since I don't know much about it.
Rae Ann's probably the best one to talk to on that because I think she's the closest one to him out of us, at least from my opinion, because she's with him from the start.
Yeah, I was with Drew since the beginning, so yay. He was very selective with his allies. I found him really strategic, but with the people he was very social with. He was very social with Sam, he was very social with me, he was very social with Caleb. I think he was social with Brandan, but I don't necessarily know. He was in with a lot of people. The people that he wasn't talking to, he was targeting, and I think that's purposeful. A lot of the people that he did talk to are the people that spoke to him, which is why I think Drew. I think you remember I would urge you talk to Drew because that's how you keep on his good side. Because he does take it if you're actively engaging with me, then that's how I survive. And I think I died because near the end of the game, I just wasn't as active. I was dealing with stuff, so I wasn't one-on-one with him, and that's very important to him. Like we would have like 2-hour to 1-hour calls. Like he would, it's like a lot of that type of deal where we like sit down, we strategize, we plan out our next moves. A lot of time his moves didn't line up with my moves, but he would still make like his moves. He would always still play his personal game, but he also like wouldn't strike at you unless he had a reason to. Like he had a reason to take me out. So like he did. Like I don't really see him as being disloyal as much as he's going to do the best for his game, but he will stick with you if you're like someone he trusts. I'm a little bit worried that I was a little bit worried that if he won the final that he would take Sam just out of like that type of loyalty, but we don't know what he would do, so I guess that's more in his favor. I think his weakness though is that he wasn't always in with everyone like Sam or Adele was. And I think that he did have a bit more of emotional moments, which affected his game. But I think he played a great game. You know, I really want, like my dream is him and Adele to go to the end because I think he would have a better shot. He's who I like personally was like wanting to go to the final two with for a lot of the game. So love him.
Well, I'll speak from what I know, and you already know how I'm going to go with this. But Drew, I don't think Drew played a bad game at all. I knew about Drew's game, obviously, through Rae Ann and Sam, because they were close to him, so I knew about Drew. And for the most part, we had a decent connection. He did make the moves that he needed to make for himself, which I do think is what you need to do in this game. But again, some of you can attest to it. What left a bad taste in my mouth is the round that I left with him. I gave him a chance the round Calum left to plead his case to me. I was open about it. And I even asked him on the call after the call, I was like, will you guys give me a chance to talk? And he said yes. And then he ghosts me for all that whole night, which I know for a fact he was on because Sam was telling me Drew called him. Drew went and called someone else. Drew went and called Sam back. Drew went and called someone else, and then called Sam back for a third time before he even talked to me. Like, I just think that's not how you earn a jury vote, personally. I think it's just like, at least give me the respect that I gave to you. And so I lost a lot of respect from him on that point. And again, this is all personal in my opinion, but it's hard for me to overcome that, to give someone a vote in the end to win like that. Whereas Adele, I can't say that for. And Sam, even though we were close, I can't say, like, he at least talked to me. I don't know. It just left a poor taste in my mouth. I don't know if anyone else can speak onto that too. So,
Caleb, you look like you're ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's my thing. Let's go back to the first double eviction. He goes up and says, no one's talking to me. Everyone's isolating me out of everyone's plans. But he does the same exact thing to me. He did when I got evicted. He did not message me once during the double, and that like just to me shows that he was scared to come up to me and be like, "Hey, Caleb, you know what? I want you out of this game." So he left me like it's fine. Yeah, you blindsided me or whatever, but you shouldn't like preach this whole holy Bible that you got to come up to me and be nice and be straightforward with when you didn't do it to us. So that shows like a hypocrisy, in my opinion, of his gameplay. Go ahead, Bruno. Sorry.
No. Finish.
I mean, I do think he made big moves. Like he took out me. He tried to take out Bruno. He actually did vote out Bruno. I mean, he voted out Rae Ann. Like he did make big moves, but the way he executed it, I just don't think was the right way. I mean, I don't know if this is me voting personally or like sounding personal with this. I just don't like when someone isn't true to what they portray. Like Bruno was a straightforward player. Like I was caught in a lot of lies. I was messy, but I owned up to every single thing I did. Whereas I don't think in his mind, he thinks he's the hero.
I think my issue with Drew is, and even Drew and I let bygones be bygones, and we moved forward in a better place. And I think I did that with anybody I had a confrontation with, even with you, Caleb and Brandan. So the one thing I give him credit for was that Drew and I, the night before you got evicted, we like had a very long conversation, and I sold him the idea of voting you out. And I said, listen, I said, if we let Caleb get to the end, like how did we all let that, how can we say we all let that happen and not reward Caleb for it with how Caleb was acting? I said, Caleb has a very good chance of getting my jury vote if he makes it to the end. And Drew was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. I think, I thought about that too. Da, da, da. So then we made the pact like, hey, whoever wins the double, we won't nom each other. And then the following one, we won't nom each other. Right. So I think I appreciate that he did keep his word and that we made that deal, and I held on to that, and I sacrificed my relationship with Rae Ann and to keep my word with him, because ultimately, if that never happened, he would have been the other nom. It wouldn't have been Rae Ann. But I think my issue is like with Drew O and Caleb is I feel like Drew P put his foot in his mouth a lot, and he would make these statements like, I do this, I am this, but then he didn't really own up to like some things, I felt like. And I think he exposed himself and made it very obvious who he wasn't working with and shit. So like when Dre was going out and I was talking to people about between Dre and Caleb, everybody was messaging me back. The person who left me on red was Drew P, and he left me on red for like 2 to 3 days. So that's why I laughed, because I'm like, hey, when I do, like, you can't complain about someone not messaging you, because when they have messaged you, you don't respond or you leave them on red, like, and act like you're not around. And then he wanted to try to like, he wanted to try to play off on it, like, oh, I'm around here and there, and so that did leave a bad taste in my mouth, and that's true. Like, if he was going to be someone I nommed, even if he didn't nom me first, because I just felt like, hey, like you couldn't even have the decency to like message someone back. And then when I heard he did that to Drew O, I'm like, he's doing that all over again, and then to Caleb, like all over again. So like when he finds himself in a like that position of not having to answer or own up to things, I think he like just goes ghost. And even I gotta say, like when I was nommed and then Sam took himself off the block and it was me and Adele, I didn't try to campaign. I didn't try to ask anyone to keep me to stay. I didn't hear a word from Drew. Like, and I expected people to vote me out. I expected to be the one evicted, but at least you could have like messaged me and say, hey, listen, I'm going to be voting you out. Like, it was a great game that you played. Da, da, da. I got nothing until we finally got to the ceremony and we had the questions that Sam was asking us. At least Adele reached out to me and was like, hey, how's your day going? This sucks that we're against each other, blah, blah, like on the block together. And Sam also made me feel like, even though I knew he was working with practically everybody else, like Sam made me feel like, hey, like he was there to talk to, and like that he possibly had my back and interest. Whereas Drew, I felt like was very apparent that like if he didn't need you, like he wasn't going to be talking to you. Like, and if you didn't serve a purpose, then like, all right, I don't need to make the effort and all this other crap. So I think that's like my issue with Drew. And I feel like he did get exposed for things that he says or like how he thinks he acted, but it really wasn't the case.
I want to say one more thing about him. Okay, I really do feel like he was very, like, yeah, people can claim he made his moves, but he was very easily influenced by what people told him. Like, for example, Bruno, you coming up to him and be like, oh, get out Caleb. So he went out Caleb. Like, he listened to Rae Ann's plans. He listened to Sam's plans. He listened to my plans. When I wanted you out, Bruno, like, early on, I was like, ooh, Bruno and Jackson are a duo, like, whispering his ear. So I really do feel like he was very easily influenced. But go ahead, Rae
I
Ann.
will say before Bruno had his call with Drew, um, Drew got me and Sam on a call to hash things out because he knew that I was going for Sam, and we discussed, and he discussed, like mostly he was pinning it all on you, Caleb, and we discussed pinning. Like I don't want to say he was easily influenced since he did make his own moves. He did do a lot of that stuff. I think he's just gonna have to own it, really, at the end of the day, and really own like I am a snake and not try to play up his character that he played in the game. But I understand, like that's why I got burned in the cube was people just didn't like how I sent them out. So I totally think it's a valid reason to not vote for him. But I would hope that he like owns it a bit to make it easier, because sometimes it is just hard to own it within the game. And like I said, I think he's an emotional player. He wouldn't have told me I was going out if I didn't press him. And when I say like, I think the production knows, like I pressed him for an answer for like 2 hours. We are like, just I gave everyone a chance to, even Bruno was like, was there actually a plan? Like, give me some jury management. Like, I just need to feel good about it.
Mhm.
And with him, I had to press it. And I think it is kind of an emotional thing where I don't think he likes being the bad guy.
But I don't know if it's that, or I feel like there were moments I felt like he compared himself to me as like, oh, honest, like no, you weren't that honest. I feel like there were moments where he was combative like me, but I don't think he was necessarily as blunt or honest as I was. And I think like what I want to know from him is like when I blocked him from playing pack leader, he could not admit like that was a strategic smart move. He tried to spin it to like, up, you were scared, but it was like, yo, you're dressed in drag, photogenic, and it's a photo challenge, and you couldn't even admit like blocking you after you had just previously nommed me 2 rounds ago was a strategic smart move. And I want to at least, like, when questioning him, I actually want to know, were you just mad and you didn't want to admit it and you were bitter, or like could you, or like I want to know if he could actually admit that that was a strategic move used against him, because he tried to like spin that whole thing like it was a scared move and it wasn't a strategic move and I wasted it. But let's be honest, would he have been that pissed if I had wasted it on him, you know? Um so like I actually want to hear his thoughts on that too, if he ends up being in the final two.
Yeah.
Really quickly, I wanted to kind of just chime in for Brandan because he did send a message. It kind of fits with what Rae Ann and Bruno were talking about, so I just wanted to kind of bring it in here. So Brandan said, Drew is sneaky and I love him to death. Like, he never backstabbed me, but a huge part of me wonders if his position in between multiple allegiances left him to kind of be more cutthroat towards people like Caleb to try and maximize his odds at getting to the end. I know his biggest fear is getting third, and frankly, he didn't put Sam up initially when I left because he made a promise. Part of a play to take him to the final two, I think, if Sam won. I think Drew has a good shot. He just needs to explain his position and his reasoning a bit more on some of his brutal moments.
Mm-hmm.
Any other final thoughts on Drew P?
I do want to say something though. I do think in a lot of ways, like he played, like people can say things about me or whatever, whoever, but he played very scared. And I mean, I can respect this, but it seems like he would throw anyone under the bus he can to ensure he stays farther. Calum is the biggest one I can think of. Like Calum really trusted him,
I'm
and
saying nothing about that.
and Drew O can definitely attest with this for me. Had he not did that, I mean, Calum would have, Drew P would have been on the jury, and it would have been a totally different game. So my question to him is, did he strategically do this stuff where he would like basically throw his closest allies under the bus, or was it a pure emotional act where it just looked, as long as it's not me, so like I don't know if that was strategy or if that was his just emotionalness, which Rae Ann did bring a point that he's an emotional player. So like I don't know if you guys have anything to chime in on that.
Well,
All right,
that was like a planned thing to throw Calum under the bus. Like that's something
Could I
that
just
him
make a
and I
point?
did
I
talk
could have.
about. So I think it is just like he has to own it. But like I feel like we had to like give him more credit than like he did think things through. Like I was on those strategy calls with him. When it came down, like he is the reason why I really started clocking Drew and Sam, because he would tell me things that they wouldn't. Like I think he was a big part of the game, maybe not your guys' game, and maybe he was sneaky, but I think he was loyal to a few people. But I think he also just played fluidly as well, where just like he was in that position where he wasn't like the big threat, but he still had to like worry about going home. Like I think it would have been really easy for us to take him out whenever he was on. Like you just said, he would have gone in 10th if he went up. So he did what he had to. You
I
know.
think
And
with
you can keep
sorry,
going.
Ryan.
No, I'm good.
No, I agree with you. I think he has the most owning up to do. And if he can really own up to everything, I don't want to shut him out like of me not voting for him. I think he still has a chance to get my vote in a way. And Caleb, I do want to say though, I don't think you're the person to really criticize him on
Oh, I'm not. I'm just saying it out as like playing like
because you threw a lot of your close allies under the bus when you were in trouble. So I just feel like you should maybe word your questioning to him a little bit. Like be careful with how you word your questioning, because I feel like whenever you were in a position of possibly being put up or when you were on the block, that you kind of did the same thing as him. So I don't want you to come off
100%.
I don't want you to come off as a hypocrite for like if you try to put him in his place, because you kind of did the same or operated the same way,
Oh, I'm just bringing up points or like negative things. But yeah, I do agree with what you have to say there.
Yeah, and then to talk on what Kate said, that round that it was between Drew and Calum, I think Drew was I don't think it was an emotional move. I do think it was a strategic move. He chose exactly what to say that he knew would get people to side with him. Him bringing up all of Calum's final twos made him look more trustworthy and Calum less trustworthy. I don't think that was an emotional thing. I think that was a strategic thing, because going in, I was going to save Calum, but then I talked to Drew and he brought up all these points. So I do give him credit. I think he was a very strategic player. He could have done better at what he did, sending people out, like Rae Ann kind of mentioned earlier. But he was a good strategic game player. I cannot discredit him for that. He made the right moves that he needed, connected with the right people he needed to get to himself to the final three. It doesn't sit well with me, obviously, but that's a personal thing. We have to look at it as a whole. He did play a good social strategic game, in my opinion.
Just quickly, we'll go to Calum, because Calum, you did want to say something.
I've forgotten the point I was actually going to make, but for one of keeping the peace, I'm just going to leave it at this and just to say, whilst I'm not discrediting his gameplay, I am completely discrediting the fact that he's got my vote, and I've got nothing more to say on the matter.
Okay.
Well, I wanted to say one more. Can I say one more thing, Billy? I talk a lot. We know that. So okay.
Really?
So I do. Oh yeah, shut up. Anyways, I do think like in a lot of ways he was very calculated and everything. But we mentioned about how people may have viewed Adele as a GOAT. Do you think people viewed Drew P as a GOAT because he pissed so many jury members off? So people were like, oh, we could keep Drew P here because we have a better shot at beating him at the end.
I never thought of Drew as a GOAT personally. I knew he was playing a good game, so I would never put him in the same category.
No, I thought he was gonna beat me when we went to the end. Like,
okay.
No,
I just wanted to.
I didn't like again. Like I felt like I was fine. My relationship with Adele, like she was the one I felt like I wanted to go to the end with. But I actually did not mind sitting next to Drew P because I did have that perception that he pissed off a lot of people, or him ghosting people left a bad taste in others' mouths,
Okay.
I just wanted to bring that up because we were talking about how Adele was like maybe considered like an easy B, or maybe I just want to see if people thought he was an easier B just because of how disliked he was and how he like handled his jury management or whatever. So, but yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'm gonna just leave it up. I have some personal questions for him when I actually get to the jury if he makes an all too.
Okay. In that case, if does anyone else have anything to say about Drew before we wrap up?
I hope y'all aren't too bitter. Like they're people. It's just a game. Like they were playing a game. Like let's be at least like
Yeah.
decent.
That's what I said. That's why I'm saying I'm not bitter. I would give him a chance. That's
Yeah, I'm just saying, just like let's try to not make it like super personal. Like
I'm not bitter that Caleb chose the wrong animal in goat, and that's enough said on that one.
Okay. So we'll wrap it up on Drew. Our third and final hunter we will be discussing this evening is Sam, and I feel as though a fellow Heather has to go here. So Olsen, the floor is yours.
Obviously, I'm going to be biased, obviously, for Sam. Sam was my number one from round one. We made a final two early on into the game. I feel like our games, for the most part, ran simultaneously together. I know there was a lot of talk in jury that Rae Ann and I were more strategic than Sam was. However, I do think Sam was strategic as well. He knew the right people to talk to. He was, I know it ties into it, but he was super social as well. Everyone still loved him. He was super charismatic. I'm going to pinpoint my elimination for one. I'm a little salty at him, and he'll be hearing from it if he gets to the end. But as a final two, if I had a final two person, I would have fought hard for them to stay, even if it would have put me in a bad spot. That's the type of player that I am. Sam did not do that. He threw my name out to everyone saying, Drew did this, Drew said that, Drew did that. That to me is a good strategic game. He knew I was going down and he didn't want to sink his own game. And I think that's a good strategic play on him to make himself look better, and that he was able to be used and he wanted to cut it now when he knew I was already gone. So I think he deserves a lot of credit that way. Sure, he won a lot of challenges, but he didn't start winning all those until I left. And he was not nominated until final 8. And I don't know. Rae Ann may be able to talk more because she was in there too, but I do think he was on our same level as strategic, is what I'm trying to say.
oh, mostly what I was saying is I'm trying to like root up Drew P. So like I try to like put some detractions, but I think Sam played the strongest game. He had the strongest out of everyone. He had the strongest social game, and he had the strongest physical game with what's left. I think he was aligned with people who were really strategic, and his social abilities allowed him to make strategic moves or allowed him to make promises to people when they really shouldn't have. People were always looking out for Sam. I think Sam, like I personally like caught Sam in a lot of like lies, or I felt like he had a really easy tells, like his eyes would get big when you said something like he didn't like. But even then, like I could see it, but I didn't do anything about it until like I was literally gonna be like chill and let like Drew and him just like stomp us to the ground until like I shower. So like
that damn shower, no. But
so I feel like he's like the front runner. Like he doesn't really. I still want to hear what the other two have to say if they're up against him. But I feel like he can take anyone and be in a really good place to win. Like he would have to really fuck up the final two for me.
Yeah, I agree. And to bring it up to Rae Ann's point, there was times where she said he had tells. There was times where we would talk, and then we would go have a call with Rae Ann. He'd be like, yeah, Drew and I said this. And I'm like, Sam, you're not supposed to let her know how close we are, because she needs to think she's closest to both of us, so she doesn't try to take us out. And I just always had to clock him twice. There were 2 big times he did that, but he still was smart, and he just got excited, and that's what some of his tells were. But I do think he is the front runner.
I mean, like he outed a different alliance when I was talking about an alliance that you guys had. Like he would like he is sometimes if like, he wasn't like grounded with someone.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he would have a way harder time if like Drew or I weren't like
100%.
Come on, sweetie, we're fine with this. Like let's do this.
For sure. He was always constantly stressed, and like that he was always paranoid. But I think
that's why he also gravitated towards someone like Drew P too, who was also a bit more of like he gravitated towards the snakes in the game, and I think he worked hard with them, you know.
I agree.
And he had great relationships with everyone else.
Yeah, 100%. I wanted to bring up something. Remember during the superlatives competition, we voted him as the most likely player to win this game. But guess who's still there? He's still there. I think that really does kind of show how good his social game. Like, yeah, he was working with the Heathers, but like he also had deals with people like me, Bruno, Drew P, where it was like I trusted Sam. You know, like Sam was someone I considered in my top 3 allies in this game. Um, so I do think I do think he played a very strong social game, and I think outside of the Heathers, he had good connections as well. That like he keeping people in like me, keep people like Bruno was good for his game because it like like how Grace argued like maybe taking her out wasn't the strongest move for his game, but I think it was because it like allowed him to still keep people that maybe weren't as liked as Grace, number one, and still be working with people like Rae Ann, me, Drew Peak, Bruno, even Calum and Jackson. Like, I think he really did execute this game very well. Yeah, he may have did get excited and maybe leaked a few things, but I do think he's played a very strong physical game, social and strategic game. And if he is in the end, we would be dumb not to award his gameplay because honestly, it's almost perfect. Because I mean, if he can still make it to the final 3, despite us saying from the beginning he's the most likely person to win this game, he deserves to win.
I agree. And then Rae Ann may be able
That's
to
what I have to say.
Sorry. Rae Ann may be able to test this too, but the Grace vote, I think, was a very strategic move on his part.
We were talking about the Grace vote for
Round.
literally 3 rounds.
Rounds.
Rounds. We were. She was like the person who we never thought we could get out. It was just like this. When he won, we celebrated because we got it. This is our only chance. A lot of his moves were really planned out. Even like the Adam blindside. Even at the time, I didn't even realize he was taking out someone that I was close to, but I was like, oh, I'm good. I'm with the Heathers,
Exactly. Yeah, he made us feel comfortable. He had that planned out. Yes, I used the relic, but he had that backup plan that Adam was gonna go. So he just always. Sorry, what'd you say, Calum?
What'd you say, Calum?
I said Adam deserved to go because he was. Well, I mean, I never really spoke to him, to be fair, but I kind of every time I saw him on camera, I'm going to be completely blunt. I just found him a really cocky shit, personally. And
I want to bring up a thing about the app.
Billy, sorry, whoever I've just got off. Billy, I mean, as with most of them, judging by the look on your face, I think you now know that I'm not one to mince my words. And in fact, to be fair, a lot of you do, given my slight meltdown on the eviction, that I have absolutely no regrets about, can I just mention. Also, I guess with Sam as well, because I kind of just want to put my 50 pence in. Whilst, okay, granted, we spoke strategy a couple of times, granted, I liked Sam, I'll be completely honest, there is only 2 people in this cast that I fully trusted, and okay, granted, there were times where I questioned that, but Sam wasn't in those 2 people that I fully trusted.
I want to bring up about Adam real quick. I mean, I think Bruno can attest to this. I thought, and that was his plan the entire time, because during Midnight Society, he was like, "Let's get out Adam this round." So I don't know. I think that was his plan all week long. Yeah,
it was his plan all.
And even
long.
And I think in the icons, I think he did the same thing as the icons as well, Rae Ann. So
yeah, no, he did. I think he talked about it literally even before he won. We would talk about who we would want.
We did. Yeah, we were like, okay, if one of us wins, this is who we're gonna do, and that was the plan going in. And I know it was his plan because he told both Brandan and whoever, I forgot who sat next to Brandan, that you guys are pawns, you're not going anywhere, because he had a bigger plan.
Yeah, a lot of the plans we made were let's pin it on me. Let's make me be the big target so that Drew O and Sam could go in and work with all of you.
Yeah.
And obviously it backfired for me, but
obviously, but he's there. He did it best.
I do think he was very good at getting in my ear for specifically targeting Rae Ann. He was like, "Halo, we know," and it made me trust him more. And then therefore target Rae Ann, when in reality, he was working close with you. So by him keeping people like me, who's actively going after his allies, he was never in a position to have to take out.
I also don't think you needed a lot of influence to go after me.
I mean, I know, but honestly, though, at one point I wanted Bruno out more than you, and I don't know. But if you're right, you're fair. But the thing with Sam is, I want like when I talk to him, like I really, really, really do want him to like be like, this was my move, not Rae Ann's move, not Drew O's move. This was my move, and like because I think that's the thing he needs to do the most is just make sure he separates his own gameplay from everyone else's. But I do think he's the best contender to win this. So
I will also say, I think that a big reason why I was able to make it far, why Drew O was able to make it far when a lot of people were starting to get sus of us, was because Sam kept on winning.
Yep,
So
exactly.
I think he has very
Yeah.
little to prove for me.
Yeah, same.
Actually, no, I've completely forgotten what I was going to say. That's fine.
Jackson, you got anything?
No, I pretty much agree with everything people have said. You know, he's obviously, you know, the front runner. He's played the best out of the three. There have been a lot of positives, but I wasn't sure if anyone had anything, you know, negative, like a reason they wouldn't vote him. But yeah, I think everything. I agree with everything that's been said. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to bring in another message from Brandan, I do have some things that are kind of, I think, do have some kind of negative thoughts. So Brandan said, I think for how much of a threat Sam was, he kind of relied on others too much. And when he ended up in power, other than the Adam round, he kind of kept shooting himself in the foot to the point where he needed to win out to make it to the end. That is Brandan's view on Sam.
I think
Completely
Sam is
agree.
just an example of a well-rounded player. Like everyone said, should maybe like obviously strategically and I mean not strategically, socially and comp wise, like he's like up there. I think strategically that's maybe where he lacks, but I think Rae Ann said earlier, like you a very social player plays into a strategic game. And he always made me feel comfortable. Like we just had our one-on-ones after Midnight Society broke down and that other bullshit alliance, but he like it I think like with him, he knew when to like stay back and not really put himself out there because I think he was aware like others were looking at him and possibly wanting to target him. Um, I think the round that Drew O was going, Sam was telling me. I can't remember if this. I'm trying to refresh my memory, but I think I told this to you, Drew. I think when I was speaking to Sam after I had won, I think it was the ROI. I forgot what it was, but Sam had told me that Drew, that you were trying to, that you were the one telling him to tell people about my advantage. One of the advantages I won in the ROI.
But
Right.
I told you the reason why though at that round.
Right.
I misunderstood the round number.
Right. So, but in that moment, I'm like, oh, so it wasn't your idea to do that. You needed Drew O to suggest it to you, you know, to like that kind of thing. But I mean, overall, though, I do think he played the best game out of the three, and it would be very hard for me not to vote for him if he made it to the end. So yeah, I think I don't know. I think he's up there with like if you put all three categories of the what's involved in the game that he would deserve the win. I think from what Caleb was saying, like I want him to be like, you know, orchestrated this. Like it was my initial idea. Like that. I want to hear more of that from him.
I will say something I'm actually kind of worried about if we're going to talk about like negatives is I feel like when he is questioned, he does get flustered. Like if he's on the spot, he has a hard time saying what's on his mind, or he like says the wrong, like he gets confused.
Yeah.
So I could totally see him bombing this final two if hard questions are asked. But I'm trying to think of negatives.
I know I'm trying to. It's hard for me, obviously, because I played with him to find negatives. You know.
I just feel like it was really easy for me to figure out that he wasn't totally honest with me when he was trying to make it like seem like he wasn't in this alliance that got leaked. Like when I told him like, you just need to tell me and we're good, and then he finally told me.
Yeah.
It's like I think it was really easy if you like really pressed him. It was really easy to catch him in a lie. I think it's true where he did have to win out. Like he wouldn't have made it to the end based upon like someone like Drew P or Adele who would have made it to the end without any wins, which I think is just as impressive as winning out. But I'm also a person who can't win comps, so like I usually am like way more like into like the social or strategic part of it than the physical. But like I said before, I think his social game was the strongest out of everyone's, and I think his physical game was the strongest of those who were left. So I think that's
I
like two
do.
big boons.
Oh, sorry.
Like it's
Oh.
good.
Yeah, go ahead. So, okay. I do want to pose that question though, because Brandon brought it up too. I've seen this happen in obviously a variety of games. Obviously, it depends on the jury, where people respect people who can win comps, and people do not respect it at all, and they think it's not worthy of winning. Where do you all stand in terms of like, it's pretty evident Sam had to win a lot of ROI comps in this very late half of the game in order to stay. Do you think that is impressive, or do you not necessarily respect it?
I
Sorry,
love
go
it. I relate to that. I feel like you got to put in the work, and it's also you got to think about when you have to win, when it's necessary and not necessary, and step back. And it's a hustle. You don't like some people like can just have the luxury of not having to hustle. And I feel like Sam didn't have that luxury. I didn't have that luxury, so I respect it, and I think people have to give credit to when it's due with that.
I definitely agree with that, because I do, like Bruno said, it does matter when you win and not win. I know I can name probably numerous challenges where he threw the challenge because it would put him in a worse spot.
Mhm.
The round that Caleb won, the wall sit, Sam easily could have won that, but he threw it to Caleb because he didn't want to have to show his cards. But he did win when he had to, and I think that's impressive. And he just is well-rounded, and that's all I can say.
Can I bring up one more thing? Okay. Can we all mention, like, out of everyone in this cast, he got exposed for the most alliances, like, but yet no one targeted him for it. Like,
I forgot to say
literally,
that. I meant to mention that earlier.
like, he got exposed more than any alliance, more than me, more than Bruno, more than Drew, more than Rae Ann. He was in almost everyone's plans at one point in this game, but yet no one targeted him against it. So to me, that like shows how good he was at damage control and how good at like navigating, the circumstances of like my messiness or other people's messiness. So I think he handled it very well, and I think despite his odds, he did overcome a lot with that. But I mean, there's obviously still flaws in his game, and we'll figure that out. But I don't know. I just wanted to bring that up because I think he did amazing damage control when he was in the heat. So.
Okay. Does anyone is that all we want to say about Sam? Anyone else have any final
I
thoughts?
guess like what I was gonna say to answer the question before about does winning out. I think it just depends on if all he was doing was just winning, and like that was his game, where it's just like he won. Then I would say like I don't really respect it. I'm a person who usually puts the other things above it, so I was hoping like in my head when I was coming to the end, I was hoping to take Bruno because I was hoping that people would respect like my strategy versus his like comp wins. So I think I see that's why that could be like viewed that way. But when you're so well rounded like him, I just don't see it. I see it more as like a yay, like he won versus because we were taking him out because we were afraid he was gonna win from a pretty early point, which is like he got clocked for it, but he also, he did that. Like it's really hard to win out. It's really fucking hard to win out.
It is very hard. I mean, if he gets robbed in jury statements, that's gonna hurt probably. But yeah, I don't know. I think like you said, Sam threw comps when he didn't like need to win it, but he also, won it when he needed to. And honestly, and it was smart in Sam taking out the better competitors, people that were winning the challenges. Like, I mean, if you watched him play, like he took out people like Bruno and me who maybe could have beat him in a challenge. So it was really smart of him to like go after those players because he could easily. I mean, from like the whole game perspective, it was easy for him to beat a player like Brandan and Adele in a competition. And we had so many opportunities to take out Sam, but we didn't, and he's still there. So I think that says enough about his game. So
let me ask this, because he is the other competitor in the final part of the pack later competition. Do you think that this is do or die? Do you think if he loses, he's done, or do you think that he has a potential chance to be taken to the final two?
I think
If he loses, I think he's fucked.
I think
personally.
I think Adele would be smart to bring Drew. If his social game is as good as we think it is, though, he may have been able to convince Adele to bring him if she wins.
if he does that, he deserves to win 9-0.
Adele brings Sam. I accredit it more to Sam than I would Adele, that he used his social game for her to bring him.
Yeah, I actually spoke to Adele. You know what the funny thing is with the relationship I have with Adele? I actually said to Adele, when this was before Sam took himself off the block from the face morph ROI. I said, Adele, like, all I need is your vote, because even if Drew P doesn't vote me, you tie it, and I'm pretty sure Brandan will view Sam as the well-rounded player compared to me and would want to take Sam out. Because Adele was like, oh, you know, I'm not sure. Like, she still didn't want to reveal her cards, even when I told her, like, I have your back. Like, I will not vote for you. I haven't put you up. I took you off the block when I won the Tangram ROI. But I mentioned to Adele, I said, Adele, like, if somehow, like, Sam makes it to the end, I said, I am geared more towards voting for Sam. I said, if you're with Brandan or Drew P, I do think you have a good chance. And Adele, I think she acknowledged that. Like, she acknowledged that her odds were better off next to Brandan or Drew P than Sam. So I would be shocked if Adele saved Sam, then like Drew O said, I think I got to credit Sam, because Adele was acknowledging with me like that Sam was the guy, you know, to really be the challenge to beat in the end.
Okay. If
I agree.
Go, Caleb. Oh, Caleb, is that it?
Oh, I just wanted to bring up. Oh, no, I was going to say, like, I think we all can agree, though, that all three have played very solid games. Like, each of them, like, I'm not afraid to, like, give my vote to, because I do think they've all played respectful enough games, all very different games, but have played very, very good games and with the cards they were given. You know, some people were more under the radar, where some people were more in the spotlight. I do think they all three played solid games, and I don't think I'm going to count out anybody, but like for me right now, if Sam gets to the end, like he deserves this win. But I think Adele's best shot is taking Drew P, and I think it's an even playing field there, and then I think either of them can win.
Okay. Well, with that, we will conclude on Sam, and with that is the conclusion of the jury round table. You guys now have the job to come up with some questions for whoever makes the final two, and wait eagerly for whoever makes the final two. And your last job will be casting a vote for the first Legend of Instinct. A little fun fact as well, coming right up after this, the fan favorite poll will be posted. So whoever wants to go on that can. And other than that, we are going to set a time for tomorrow's finale. All three finalists have said that they are happy with any sort of time, so we will try and work around it as best as you guys as we can.
Who's the final slaughter?
So just to give you some context, I will also be sending out the schedule tonight of how the finale is going to go. But the final slaughter is all going to be live tomorrow during the finale.
Oh.
Sorry,
So-
final
Will
slaughter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, you guys will be there.
Okay.
The final slaughter will happen, and we'll jump straight into the.
Can I ask, are you doing new school Big Brother jury questioning or old school?
So basically how it's going to work is I'm going to send this. I wrote out a whole schedule for the night with rough time estimates and everything. So basically we're gonna do it where we're just gonna rotate through every single person. They will get about, I think it's like 3 to 5 minutes to kind of just give their final statements, ask questions. So we will go in boot order unless there's any scheduling issues with some of you where you have to leave early or arrive late, then we can kind of fluctuate it that way. But every single jury member will get a couple of minutes to say any statements they want to the final three, ask any questions, and then we'll go from there. So,
Okay.
and I also really quick just wanted to say, I thought this jury roundtable was really, really good. So thank you all for really kind of, making it up tonight. Obviously, I think it went, I was kind of trying to time it, and we spent almost like 20 minutes on each person. So I really appreciate that because I think we really dissected everything, and I thought we had some really, really good comments made overall. So thank you all for showing up tonight and just offering your thoughts and questioning each other. I thought it was really great. So thanks.
Can I also say as well, you couldn't have timed this any better because the final debate's just started.
Yeah. We will let you
guys.
We will let you guys go to that. With that, thank you all. Chris, you know what to do.
Gonna have us jump in a car? I can say it for you.
Yes, you can say it for us if you want. Just do the hands.
I don't. You say it. You go. It's your show.
Oh, okay.
I won't take it from you again like I did the other day.
Oh, you're such a sweetheart. All right, you guys. This is not the last time I'll be saying this, obviously, but always remember to trust your instincts and jump in a car. Thank you.
Thanks all.